button. Great. So welcome everyone to our personal tax revision session. You may not know me, but my name is Gladwyn Butler-Jones, and I have sent you an email today to do task 6 and task 7 that we are looking into today. And yes, I am a tutor in First Intuition Yorkshire, and the subjects that I teach is tax, because I love tax, and business tax being my favorite, and as well as financial reporting, another of my favorite papers. So I assume all of you are aware of how Zoom works, but if you are new to it, just wanted to let you know that there is a chat service that you can see like a bubble at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Use that to type in any questions that you may have. I've also logged in twice, one as named as Q&A. So if you prefer to message privately, just change that where you can see 2 in your chat box to Q&A, and that way you can chat to me privately and no one else can see. Yes, answers to the questions that we'll be doing today will be sent out after the class to anyone who has registered for the session. And as I said, this class is being recorded at the moment, so a link will be sent out to you as well for you to review it again if you need to. Any questions on anything so far? Okay, I'll take your silence as this. As any of our sessions, I want to start this session just to get to know where your knowledge is on income tax calculation and national insurance calculation. So if you have your phone handy with you, that would be great. Could you please log into www.menti.com, and the code that you need to type in is on the screen, 389617. If you just type that in, and I will go ahead and get that on my screen as well. And just to make sure everyone gets to see the entire screen and not me all the time, I will switch my video off. All right. I am now on Menti, and I have already got 10 people logged in so far on it. So that's menti.com, and the code is on front of your screen, 389617. I love the pictures that come up here. They're real cool. Oh, someone is the ghost today. Okay. Someone is fire and a paperclip. Oh, I'd like to be a paperclip. Okay, so it is a class of 23 people today, and only 18 have managed to log in. So we'll give a couple of more minutes for people to log into Menti. Okay, we might as well start with it. The first question is, what is the relevant personal allowance for your exam? Is it 12,000, 11,850, 12,500, 11,300, or 11,500? Perfect. So we've got 18 students who have said 12,500. Yes, that is correct. It is 12,500, not 12,000. 12,000 is your capital gains tax annual exemption amount. And the best thing I always tell for tax exam you need to do is have your tax tables handy in front of you. Use them. That's something you're given in the exam. Use them to the best and abuse the information. You have the information, use it. So let's see the leaderboard. Who was the fastest to answer the correct answer so far? Perfect. Lauren, you are at 980 points, just 1 point below from Danny. So let's go to the next question. This is about John. He's a high rate taxpayer. How much savings allowance would he be entitled? Right, that is correct. 500. 500 if you're a high rate taxpayer, and if you are a basic rate taxpayer, it is £1,000. 0 if you are an additional rate taxpayer, but in this question it was high rate, therefore it is £500. Again, this is given to you in your tax tables, so please use your tax tables. Let's see if Lauren is still running fast. Amazing. Lauren, you're still first, 4 marks above Danny again. So this is quite a neck-to-neck competition at the minute. So let's see the next question then. So this is a good question. When an individual has adjusted net income, of what amount do they start to lose the personal allowance? What should their total income be from when they start losing personal allowance? Yes, it is £100,000. After £100,000, your personal allowance reduces by half. So you get 12,500. So if your earning is total income is 110,000, the extra 10,000, you divide that by 2, that gives you 5,000, and you'll reduce your personal allowance by that 5,000, giving you a personal allowance of 7,500. So yes, it's £100,000. So it's not 12,500 because that is your personal allowance amount. That would be really hard if anyone loses personal allowance above that income. And 125, more or less right there, because after 125, you don't get any personal allowance at all. So good one there. But again, read the question in detail to exactly understand what is the examiner asking me. Personal tax and tax examine is all about detail and dates. So let's see if Lauren is still first. Perfect. Lauren and Danny are going neck to neck there. Both of them are still ranking high. So who does pay Class 1 primary national insurance? The key word here is primary. Yes, that is right. The majority have said employees. Yes, employees pay class 1 primary national insurance. Class 1 secondary is what employers pay. In this paper is all about personal tax, so you won't have any answers to do with self-employed or, well, retired could be, but again, only you pay class 1 primary on employees. Self-employed should not come up here because you are dealing with personal tax only. Okay, and scores. Oh, Danny, you've gone third now. And Lydia's taken over you. And Lauren, you're still going first. Perf, amazing. So I did tell this answer already. So if you did pay attention to this, you'd get this right. I just said it a few minutes ago. Well, a few seconds ago, shall I say. Great. Glad to see that. Employers, that's right. Class 1 secondary is paid by employers. No retirement. We don't have to have a lot of retired people rules that we are learning in this exam. So it's employers. That's right. Okay, let's see if Lydia takes over Lauren or Lauren is still number one. Yes, Lauren is still number one. And she is the winner. Congratulations, Lauren. Right. So that's good. I'm glad to see a lot of you have a good understanding about national insurance and how to calculate your income tax liability and all the necessary information, because that forms the basis of what we are going to do today. As you can see on the screen, the objectives of today's session is to do task 6, which is on the calculation of your income tax liability, and task 7, which is on your national insurance calculation. So these are the two things that we will be looking into. And I have sent all of you some pre-work of 2 questions that I wanted you to have a look at and have a go at, because that would just makes it a lot easier for you to ask me any questions that you may have, and we can make the most of the 1 hour that we have together. So before we start and dive into the questions, I just wanted to show about what the examiner's comments are based on past performance of students. And as you can see in this diagram, in this graph here, task 6, the darker portion is a lot higher than task 7. So that says people are doing well in calculating income tax liability, and that is a big chunk of your paper. So it's good to see that there's a very strong performance by people there. However, the performance in task 7 is not that bad either. There's a very reasonable performance on average for that task as well. So again, we will look into the small faults that we see what people do, and we can try and make sure that we avoid those faults and that we are good in this task and we can excel in this task. Any questions so far? Okay, cool. Thank you. Moving on then. So let's dive into task 7 as it's one of the smaller ones. So let's do that first. So I just wanted to see, I've gone through what the examiner says, and these were the basic, some of the higher level strengths and weaknesses that they have found that students have. Overall, I must say, the examiner says that over 60% of students achieve the minimum requirement as compared to 50% in 2018. So there is a slow progress in the performance of students in this task, which is great news. The good things that students do and that we should make sure that we do is understand the rules that we have. And what I mean by that, it's great that we have our tax tables, and our tax tables tells us if your income is below a certain amount, you need to tax this percentage, you need to tax that percentage. But for national insurance, it is important to know what is included in your earnings to calculate national insurance contribution. Remember, national insurance contribution is calculated on your salary and your cash benefits. That is like vouchers, cash vouchers that you receive, those will be included as well. Another good point to remember is your employment allowance. Remember, employment allowance is given to employers per employer receives it per year of £3,000. And another caveat to the rule that you need to keep an eye on is that if it's more, you need to have more than one employee if you are a company. But weaknesses that they notice is that we failure to read the detail. We forget to read the question and answer exactly what is the examiner asking me to write. Is the examiner asking me to round up the numbers or round down? Is the examiner actually asking me to put it in whole numbers or just show it in decimals? What is the examiner actually asking me here? And like I asked in the start of the session, whether you've done business tax or whether you're currently doing business tax. And that's one thing that sometimes falls to the disadvantage of students, because in business tax, you learn about class 2 and class 4 national insurance, which you don't learn here. All you learn is about class 1 and class 1A insurance. So making sure that you remember that this is, in this paper, this is the tax that you need to calculate. So using your tax table, seeing that the information they have given and just using that information is essential. Any questions from anyone so far before we move on to doing a question? Okay, thanks for that, Kim. That's good to know. So if you've all received the question that I sent you, so if you do go ahead and open that, it was about task 7. So let me open that here. Okay, so can everyone see my task 7 on your screen now? Yeah, perfect. Thanks for that. Okay, great. So this question is about Mr. Hunter. So Mr. Hunter, we have been told, is a sole trader. All right. So he's a sole trader, means he has his own business. He's self-employed. and he employs Kendra in his business, who is his only employee. During 1920, Mr. Hunter paid Kendra a gross salary of £28,000 along with car benefit of £4,200. Complete the following sentences using whole pounds. As we said, the question will tell you what needs to be done. So we need to have it in whole pounds, therefore we need to round down. So the first one is to calculate Class 1 secondary national insurance for Mr. Hunter. Why that has been payable by Mr. Hunter Class 1 secondary? Because he is an employer. So, as I said, what we need to do is we need to open our tax tables and go to our tax tables where it talks about national insurance contribution. And we said Mr. Hunter is an employer. So what is the calculation we need to include then? We need to do this one here. It says Class 1 by employer, below 8632 is 0, and above that is 13.8%. And remember, as an employer, you also get an employment allowance of £3,000, which are available for sole traders as well. So going back to my question here, thinking about my Class 1 secondary national insurance, my calculation then will be, first, for the first 8632, it will be at 0%, therefore an amount of 0. And then anything above 8632 will be 13.8%. So team, tell me, what is my earnings that I will include in this question? Love it, Christina, that you've given me already the answer, but what is the earnings for that calculation? Yeah, 28. So we're not including the company car benefit. That's the point that I want to make sure you get it right. Why? Because the company car benefit is a non-cash benefit. We only include cash benefits to calculate Class 1 national insurance contribution. So as rightly mentioned, 28,000 is what I will take. But what I do is, because I've already said 0% for 8632, the remaining that we're going to be 28,000 minus 8632, that's going to be at 13.8%, which comes to what rightly, apologies, Christina has mentioned, which is 2672. So if I do that, 28. That is right, 2672. But the answer is 0. That's right, Susan, because you get something called as an employer allowance. So you take out your employer allowance of £3,000 per employer. So if I deduct that, it's going to come to a negative, but we can't have a negative national insurance. Therefore, that is nil. And in exam, please make sure you write that. So Laura has asked a very good question. She's saying, so even with one employee, you can still use the 3K. Laura, that one employee rule is only for companies. So if it is a company that has 1 employee, then you cannot get it. Okay, so that is a good question. We need to make sure we cover everything. So good one there, good point raised. What about class 1 primary then? Again, class 1 primary, I go to my tax tables, have a look. Primary in the question will pop up as employee. Also another term for class 1 employee, which is class 1 primary. It says below 8632 is 0, and anything between 8632 and 50K, 12%, and anything above that is 2%. So we take those numbers and we put that here. That will say 8632 into 0% is 0. And anything above that, which is £28,000 minus 8632 into 12%, that comes to 2324. That's right, Kim. That is correct. So that is my answer, 2324. Now the last one is your Class 1A National Insurance. We've not spoken a lot about this so far, but just to let you know, Class 1A National Insurance is something that we pay on our non-cash benefits, and this is paid by the employer. So that in this case is Mr. Hunter. So opening my tax tables again, class 1A, there's no minimum, it's just told to me, class 1A, do it at 13.8%. So take that, I've been told that the company car benefit is already calculated for me and told me it's £4,200. So I do that, 4,200 into 13.8%, which comes to 579. Perfect, Kim, Christina. That is right, which is 579. Remember, you will round down for national insurance contributions. Some points that I would like to make a note of, remember, in this task 7, you will not always be just told to calculate tax, because that is not always that can come. You may also be asked true or false questions. So knowing your material, understanding your material is also important. You can get true or false, or you could also get complete the sentence style questions for these. So just remember, knowing your material, understanding them is also important, because that is one thing we take for granted in this paper. Oh, we get all the information, so not a lot to learn. No, it is important to know how you apply your rates and what are the limits. Sorry, I've got a couple of questions. Now let me read them. So I've got Hannah asking, if you had a cash benefit, would you add to class 1 secondary? Yes, Hannah, you would add that to your class 1 secondary as well as your class 1 primary. Right. So Christina, I've learned something as I did not. Oh, good. I am glad. Yeah, that's why I picked this question. Again, these are questions from task-based questions that we have created. So I'm glad that helped you. Louise said, would you lose the mark if you put 580? In this question, again, they've told you use whole numbers. So if you would have put 580, they might, give it to you. But again, for national insurance, they have said round down. So remember to round down. Okay, Let me just check if I have missed anyone's questions, because we do have a big class, not as big, but okay. Take. Yeah. Yes, Donna. Yes, at times it's confusing. It is the detail in this rule that we need to make sure we know. So Rochelle has asked, can I just ask why the company car benefit was only done for the last question? Rochelle, company car benefit is a non-cash benefit. If it is a non-cash benefit, you only pay Class 1A national insurance on non-cash benefits. That's right, Hunter. That's right. Mr. Hunter will only pay it. So 1 point for your tax planning team that you need to remember is 1 point for your tax planning, you need to remember that from an employer's point of view, it's best for them to give you exempt benefits because that won't be part of any national insurance contribution. Whereas from an employee point of view, you want a non-cash benefit because a non-cash benefit, an employee doesn't pay any class 1 or doesn't pay any national insurance contribution. Right. Then we've got a question, even though question 2 talks about primary national insurance contribution, will this still be paid by Mr. Hunter in respect of Kendra? Yes, it will be paid by Mr. Hunter in respect of Kendra. That is important to remember because this comes from your payee. So when you get your salary, your national insurance contribution is already deducted. So you don't go and pay your national insurance. It is paid on behalf of you, if that makes sense. Oh, Donna, I'm sorry about how you feel, but remember, the only thing I can tell you as consolation, anyone here, practice makes you perfect. The more questions you practice, the better you get. You will learn something different from every question you do. So take this time and practice. The best thing what you have done is coming for these sessions and practicing some additional questions. That is one of the best things you've done. So that's the first step you've taken, because every time you do one, you will learn something different, which you're learning today. And I'm sure if you continue doing your questions, you will keep learning something different. I agree. Very well put by Kim. Nothing sticks the first time you read it. Best to go through a few times. Yeah. And practice questions. In the exam, you're going to get questions where you have to apply the rules. So might as well just do questions and learn, get it wrong. It's best to get it wrong now and know, because then you'll realize, okay, I don't have to do that again. And I know I have to make sure I don't make that mistake. It sticks in your head. Okay, so if any of you don't have any other questions, I would like to move on to our next task. Why am I saying next? Any questions before we move on to the next task? Perfect. Okay. I'll take Skimword as a word for everyone in the team. Great. So let's see the next one. The next one, now we've done task 7. Let's move on to the main task, my favorite task, task 6. So task 6 in your exam is an open task. What I mean by an open task is you will be given a blank piece of paper like you were given in your question when I sent it to you, a table, and you had to type your answer in and you had to form your answer. Great thing Again, from Mark's point of view, team, this is for 12 marks, this task. And timing is important. Tax papers, we need to make sure we stick to our times. It's not one of those papers where you'll finish early and get out. So you will use your entire time. So practice to time if you can. So you get 1.5 minutes per mark. So that would make this task 18 minutes that you'll have to do it. Great thing that we notice that students are doing, they are reading the question in detail. That's what the examiner says. They are taking that time to do the question. They are planning their answers. They're thinking about how they want to lay it out, because that is going to help your marker award you points. Show your workings where you can, because it's an open task, they are giving you the opportunity to show your workings. Show them. If you think something is exempt, put a 0. Remember to do that. Don't just leave it. State the obvious that I say in class. Link all your workings. If you're doing a separate working somewhere else, link it. Put it as working note number 1 and link it to your answer so that they know where you're getting it from. And thinking about what people are getting wrong is, again, deducting the wrong savings allowances. Allowances, remember, we went through it in our Menti quiz. If you are a basic rate taxpayer, you get £1,000 at 0 rate. And if you're a high rate taxpayer, you get £500 at 0 rate. And another one that need to keep in mind of, because I know a lot of students forget that, is your first £5,000 one. So first 5,000, if your non-savings income is less than £5,000, whatever is left in that £5,000 will be taxed at 0% as well. And the last but not the least is our total income being 100,000 or more. Because what does that affect? We just spoke about is your personal allowance calculation. So make sure, because in your most 9 out of 10 times in your exam, you won't be given enough columns to put total income in. So please make sure you write it on a piece of paper and do your workings for that. These were some of the points that the examiner has spoken about that I wanted to talk to you about. That's good. So then, let's move on to the question that I sent everyone to do. Right, so we come to task 6. Before we go on to read it, I just wanted to think about, when I was telling you about planning, what do you need to think about when you're planning? First, columns. How many columns for your planning? Think about how many columns do I need? Then see what's given to you. In this question, we are, good one, Alex, you need 5 columns. But how many columns are we given in this question? We are only given 3 columns, 1, 2, 3. So we need to find a way, that is in your planning, how can I display this answer, which normally goes in 5 columns, in 3 columns? What are the main bits that I need to show? What are the things that I really need? So because it's 3 columns, the 3 things, according to me, in my opinion, I think I need. That's great. Yeah, you do need a total column to check it. But in your exam now, you only have 3. So what you do is, like rightly mentioned by Suzanne, it is you do 1, you list all your income, because at least description is important. Second, you show your workings. Workings is really important. And third is your amount. And like Alex said, 5 columns, I'll take my piece of paper and make sure I do that. So on paper, it is good to do your columns as Alex mentioned. So do that, your 4 columns and your 5th column. This is my 5th column here, where I am going to write in my descriptions. So I can keep a tab of what on earth I am actually doing. So going back to the question then, let's see what information we have been given. We've done at least some planning about our layout first. Good. So let's dive in. So we've got information about Joanna. Joanna has got the following income for tax year 1920. Good. We've got her income from employment. So that is a type of non-savings income. So I know which column I should put that in. Then we've got taxable profits from self-employment. For all the students here who are doing business tax will know how that comes about, but who have not, good news, you're just given a number. Just remember, it's not part of your savings or your dividends. It is your non-savings income. It's income from your trade. That will just be given to you. Don't need to know more than that. Interest from an ISA. ISA is the word you need to remember. And when you come with that word ISA, remember, like rightly mentioned by Danielle and Kim, good, this class is really good. It is exempt. But remember, since it's exempt, state it in your answer somewhere. Make sure you put it somewhere. Don't ignore it. Interest from building societies, 3,060. God, that's good amount. I wish I got that in my interest from my building society account. But anyways, so interest from building society, that is savings income. It's a saving that we have. And dividends, the clue is in the name. It forms part of my dividend income. Okay, so let me put this first information, like how Alex said, it becomes easier for me to see all of that and work out to double check if I am going in the right place. So putting in my employment income, I'll just write that here, employment. Again, this is your own notes on a piece of paper. You don't get any marks for it. So no description here if you don't write, doesn't matter. But I'm writing it so that we follow good practice all throughout. So employment income, 105,500. We said trading income is also a part of my non-savings. So I put that here, 66,000 pounds. Then we said interest from ISA. It is a type of savings. I'll put that 0 here. Interest from building society, that is interest from building 3,060. So I'll put that here. And dividend 7,640. So that gives me what we call total income. Remember these words make a lot of difference. Total income, taxable income. Taxable income is after deducting my personal allowance. So if I add this up together in my non-savings, that comes to 171,500. That comes to 30,60,7,640. Donna, good one. Yes, for your exam, total income and net income can be used interchangeably. There is a slight difference between the two words, but yeah, for your exam, you can use the word net income. So that total of 1,7,500 plus 30, 60, and 76, 40 comes to 182,200. This amount should ring some bells in your head and tell you, okay, if my total income is that big, I am not going to get any personal allowance because it is more than 100,000, and our notes also suggest that if you earn more than 125,000 pounds, you don't get any personal rate allowance. And Rochelle has mentioned another point. It is, yes, he is, well, Joanna, she is an additional rate taxpayer as well. So those are some of the benefits of putting it in your working so that you can see this and it helps you to just type it in, and all you have to do is then just fill in all the information and you can get it right. So Madalena, that is right, 182,200, that is my total income here. Good one, team. Right, any questions, team, before we move ahead? Great. Awesome. Thank you. So let's move on then and put this in our examination format that we need to do to get our marks. So as we said, a list of transactions. So let me put that in. Employment, income. We said column 2 is working, column 3 is amount. So I'll put my amounts in. Yeah. Then we said trading income. $66. Then we said interest. From ISA, we said that was exempt, 0. If you write the word 0, nil, or exempt will work, as long as the examiner knows that you know your material. Interest from building, again, I'm writing in short form here because my handwriting is fat, but again, you will be able to type it in, so you will be able to fit the words building society. That is 3060. And then comes my dividends, 7640. That gets me total, or as we said, net income of 182,200. Good one there. Show the examiner, don't just miss out on your personal allowance working. Show the examiner that you do know that they don't get personal allowance. What I would do is I'll show personal allowance 12,500. Then show your adjusted net income working. What is that working? It's half of anything above my £100,000. So that's 182,200 minus 100. That comes to, rightly mentioned by Christina, 41,100. Therefore, that 41,100 is a lot higher than 12,500. Therefore, my personal allowance is nil. This, once I deduct my personal allowance, my total or net income turns into something called as taxable income, which in this case still remains at 82,200. Okay. So remember again, this 182 here in this calculation is your adjusted net income. And that, in this question, it is the same as your total income, but it would be different if we had something called as personal pension contribution or gift aid. I hope these words are refreshing your memory about what needs to be done. We'll talk about that once we finish this question in a bit into detail. That's right. You gross them up, and you extend the band. Daniel has rightly mentioned that. Good. We'll look into that as well. So now let me calculate my income tax. So for the first, in my non-savings income, first 37,500 at 20%. That comes to 7,500. Then what we said, the total of my non-savings is here 171,500. So if I've taken 37,500, I know I have to reach 150 till where I get 40% now as a high rate taxpayer. So if I minus that 150 minus it from 37,500, that comes to 112,500 at 40%. So that gives me £45,000. So what is left then of non-savings is 150,000 minus 171,200. Alex, I would suggest you state everything. As I said, show the marker you know. You never know, there will be a mark for that, for stating it is 0. Please do it. Good one, Laura. Yeah, please do. Please do show that. So then we've got the remaining 171,500 minus 150. Now we've gone above my 150. Everything is 45%. So that now gives me 9,675. Then we come to savings. Now, if I'm an additional rate taxpayer, will I get any savings allowance? Good one, Alex. Yeah, you don't. Your tax table said no, so you just do 30/60 into 45%. Right. Before I move on, I've got a question from Kim. What if there isn't enough lines? Look as though we may run out. Yes, if there is a chance that we may run out of our lines, we need to put that in planning. So in my question here, your good one, I have missed a line. So here, that highlighted point, I should have brought everything on top one line. That way I would have fitted it in. So that again is in your planning, but I'm just doing some extra notes for you to think about it. So it's taking that one line there. But yes, in your exam, you cannot insert lines how you do on Excel. You would have to put that in your planning of thinking about how many lines I have. So that comes, then going back to my question, savings income multiplied by 45% is 1,377. Dividend. Danielle has asked, can you put savings allowance 0 to show you know that they don't get any allowance? Would that help with the mark? Danielle, that would if you can, but I'm afraid you need to make sure you've got enough of lines there to write everything in. So just make sure you've got that space. Alex asked, I was under the impression that in the exam we have unlimited rows but limited columns. You may have just an entire page to do that. Have a look in your practice assessments. Have a go at those questions. See how it looks there. Practice those. If you do have unlimited lines, well and good. But in this one, where we're doing it on a piece of paper, there is none. So I am going out in my rows. So that gives me dividend. Everyone gets dividend allowance of £2,000 at 0%. So we will do that. That gives me 0. And the remaining is 5640 at 38.1%. That will give me 2149. As you can notice, I am one line short, and if I had to put that in, I'll put that in here as a line. Again, in the question, you won't be able to insert lines. You just need to make sure you've got enough lines. If it's unlimited, well and good for you. So total, no, then you say tax, not total. My tax liability is add all these numbers in to give me 65701. And that is my tax liability. Has anyone got any different answer and would like to ask me any questions or challenge anything that we have done? Okay, so Alex has rounded down to 2148. Alex, you don't round down, you only round down for national insurance. Everything else, you will follow the normal rounding rules. So because this one comes to 2148.84, you'll do it to 2149. Again, rules we need to remember of how to do things. Right. Okay. Some points I just said we wanted to make sure we are aware of. So please, please, please make sure you are aware of it. You know the difference difference between personal pension contribution and occupational. Georgia, yeah, it's all typed. It's open task. It's all typed question. Yep. Could someone tell me what's the difference between the two? Just want to make sure we are aware of this before we end for the day. Anyone? Amazing, Louise. Good one there. Yes. Occupational, remember your employment pro forma. In your employment, if you don't, think about your pay slip. Your pay slip has some pension, which is statutory pension, we call it. That in tax world is occupational pension contribution. It is deducted by the employer. So it does not affect your personal insurance, personal allowance, or your bands or anything of that sort. Another one for that is your give as you earn. It follows the similar rules. but the only one where you don't get relief straight away, because this is personal pension contribution. That means you are going to the bank from the money you've received, your cash in hand after your tax and national insurance has been deducted. You're going to the bank and saying, I want to open a pension account, or I want to give money to a charity and claim gift aid. So when you do that, as rightly mentioned by Alex, what we need to do in this case is we need to A, gross it up, 100 over 80. B, extend bands by that amount. That's right, Lewis. They both extend your bands. You extend your bands, you gross it up, as well as that becomes part of your adjusted net income calculation for your personal allowance. So good things there for your planning question that I'm planning to do next week. Remember these points. There is a limit on how much of personal pension contribution that you can have, and that is not part of your syllabus. But if you are planning to do ACCA or ICAEW, you will learn that in future. Yes, there is a limit of how much you can put in your pension. Yeah, that is right, Danielle. You will, to work out a different personal allowance value. That's for your personal allowance, the calculation that we just did with your, if I just bring that up to show every day, it's this calculation of 182. This 182 there is where that will change if you had a gift aid or personal pension. So that covers quite well everything that may come up that is required to go through today in relation to task 6 and 7. That is right, Danielle. So your calculation, that is the formula for adjusted net income. Your adjusted net income equals total or net income minus gross gift aid minus gross personal pension. That's right. No, don't apologize. Please clarify, it's good. It's best to ask and get it right. Again, team, whoever have their exams this week, make sure you do the practice assessments on AAT websites. Please make sure you do those before you attempt your exam. So, if you are still planning to attend our next week session, I just wanted to let you know we are planning to do task 8 on tax planning and task 9 on basis, should not say basis, but it should have said basic of basic capital gains calculation. So we will be doing that next week. As usual, I'm here if you do have any questions for me, but if you don't, I hope you have a lovely evening and all the very best for your exam, Gaia team. I hope you excel and pass this paper.